As we continue to make fun of the utter garbage that Western media is putting out when it comes to the war in Ukraine, I would like to go back to the very first days of the war, to February 26th. Now, this is the third day after the war began. And this was also the day when, personally, I realized that Ukrainian accounts of this war are not to be trusted. They are complete garbage. And I am going to show you exactly why. In fact, this is the very incident, this article that we're going to go over right now describes the very incident which has conclusively proved that the number of losses that the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are suffering, all accounts of X territory captured, Y territory recaptured, all of that coming from Ukrainian official sources is absolute hot garbage. So here it is. 2 Russian Il-76s shot down in Ukraine. Now, the Il-76 is basically this large strategic transport aircraft. It is equivalent to the C-17 in the United States Air Force. It can carry over 200 military personnel. It can carry something on the order of 60 tons of cargo. Basically, it can carry a main battle tank and deliver it to a combat area. And it can also carry paratroopers. So the official Ukrainian account is that 2 of these aircraft were shot down. There were also some claims about 3 aircraft being shot down, but it seems like most articles are describing only 2 aircraft being shot down by Ukrainian air defenses. So here it is, the article. As the sun rises on day 3 of the Ukrainian war with Russia, reports have surfaced that 2 Russian Il-76 heavy transports were shot down by Ukrainian air defenses. Russia has not acknowledged the loss of any of its Il-76 aircraft. On Friday, February 25th, Ukrainian air defenses claimed to have shot down 1 Russian Il-76 transport near Vasilkiv, south of the capital in Kiev. Ukrainian reports claimed the aircraft was carrying a landing force, but did not specify any number of casualties or survivors from the reported incident. The use of the Il-76 transport aircraft, along with specially trained airfield seizure troops similar to US Army Rangers, is known as part of the Russian military doctrine. Following reports of this first Il-76 shootdown, a second Il-76 was reported to have been shot down over Bila Tserkya. The report originated from the Ukrainian State Special Communications Agency. Early reports did not suggest what mission this aircraft may have been performing, and no specific reports of casualties or survivors has been provided as of this hour. Both reports were later confirmed at about 4:30 UTC by Associated Press. And then it goes on to say that the Ilyushin Il-76, NATO reporting name Candid, is a large 4-jet transport roughly similar in mission and configuration to the American C-17 Globemaster III. It is used in a variety of configurations and roles varying from electronic warfare, airborne early warning. By the way, a little bit of commentary on my part. Airborne early warning, or AWACS, when an Il-76 is used as an AWACS aircraft, it is called an A-50, which is a bit different from Il-76. So in this particular case, we are clearly not talking about any AWACS aircraft. Continuing with the article, and control and most commonly heavy transport, including the delivery of airborne forces via parachute insertion and direct landing on captured airfields. The reports of the Il-76 aircraft being shot down have been accompanied by photos on the internet. both from news agencies and on social media that show aircraft wreckage. Some components in these photos are identifiable as Il-76 components, most notably the distinctive tail gun turret in one photo. And then it goes on to show two photos, but the article right here says that this is an old photo taken in 2014 when a Ukrainian Il-76 was shot down. We have to remember that the Il-76, like so much Russian military technology, goes all the way back to the Soviet era. So Russia is not the only country operating these aircraft. Ukraine has or had these aircraft as well. And this photo that we're seeing, it's a much older photo that shows a Ukrainian downed aircraft. The article talks about there being photos of Russian Il-76s being shot down, that there is forensic evidence, but let me assure you, there is no such forensic evidence. But I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, continuing with the article. However, additional photos of a Ukrainian Il-76 that was shot down by the Russians almost 8 years ago on June 14, 2014, have also surfaced in current media reports. The Ukrainian Air Force Il-76 in the 2014 incident was shot down by Russian separatists during its landing approach to Luhansk. In that 2014 incident, 40 soldiers and 9 crew members were killed. That downing took place in June, and the landscape in the current photograph seems to be coherent with the summer season. Some social media accounts originating in Ukraine say that 2 Russian Il-76 shoot-downs claimed today are revenge for the 2014 loss of the Ukraine Il-76. Both Ukraine and Russia operate the Ilyushin Il-76 heavy jet transport. Additional reports suggest that the battle for the capital city of Kiev, set back against the backdrop of a Russian media report from TASS that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, I find it quite interesting that they use the more Russified version of Zelensky's name here, has accepted Russian President Vladimir Putin's proposal and is ready to negotiate peace and a ceasefire. No other Western media outlet has reported this announcement that was attributed to Vladimir Zelensky's press secretary, Sergei Nikiforov. Further unverified claims of Russian aircraft being downed and repetitive fighting in several areas may suggest that Russian advances are facing heavier resistance than originally estimated. But specific information from either nation in the conflict has been difficult to verify. One report suggested that a major thrust by Russian forces into downtown Kiev using the city's main road was thwarted by Ukrainian defenders. As with nearly every report coming out of this region, there was no independent verification of the reports. As the third day of the conflict continues, one quandary of this war has been the difficulty of obtaining accurate media information, both from official sources and through social media outlets. The continued evolution of media in the social media age, the distinction between official media outlets and amateur social media, has blurred or disappeared entirely. As a result, reports from the region originate from either embedded reporters actually in Ukraine, such as the BBC's Liz Doucette, who has been reporting directly from the Ukrainian capital via satellite and internet links, or from observers outside the region monitoring official news and unofficial social media channels for stories. Even private satellite reconnaissance companies have provided intelligence on the conflict, but with little context and no official verification. These vastly different media resources provide either a very close-up view of the conflict, as if viewing the battlefield through a straw, to a very broad and usually less credible perspective gleaned from media surveys, which are highly susceptible to misinformation and disinformation. As a result of this highly polarized media depiction of the war, an enormous amount of information between these two journalistic extremes has left worldwide observers in the dark with few credible, substantial narratives of the conflict to depend on. So that is the article. Now, I'm not going to criticize this particular article too much. I will criticize it for one thing, and that is the fact that it has written this provocative title that makes it seem like it's 100% confirmed that 2 Russian Il-76s were shot down, but then it says all the way at the very end of the article, like, yeah, well, the Russians haven't really admitted to this, and this might not have really happened, and this photo that has been associated with this alleged shoot down, it's actually a much older photo from a completely separate instance. So it's sort of putting this as a disclaimer. It's saying Russians are suffering huge losses, 2 Il-76s shot down, and as a disclaimer, it says, well, yeah, not really, probably not. But anyways, a lot of credit to the author of this article for not being nearly as bad as the other articles we've covered. I am recording this video not to criticize this article, which is basically just reporting what other people have said, specifically the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense and Ukrainian media. I am here to criticize said Ukrainian media. And one of the articles that has been put out by Ukrainian media can be seen here. This is Ukrainskaya Pravda. So it's one of these big Ukrainian media outlets. I've translated it into English. Well, I sort of picked the English version that was already available. As we can see, this article is also from the same date, 26th of February. It's a really short article. It basically says, death to enemies, Il-76 was shot down over the Kiev region with an enemy landing party. The commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Valery Zaluzhny, on Facebook, ad verbatim, our air defenses shot down an Il-76 with an enemy landing party in the Vasilkiv area. This is revenge for Luhansk 2014, death to the enemies. And we can see on the sidebar there is a bunch of other very informative and totally credible news article headlines. So this particular article describes over a shoot down of an Il-76 over Vasilkiv. The other report describes the shoot down of 2 Il-76s. The other happened over Bila Tserkya. Let's take a moment to look at these areas on the map. So this is the town of Vasilkiv right here. And this is Bila Tserkva. So the reports that we're hearing suggest that the 2 aircraft were shot down somewhere around this area. At the time, Russian forces were maybe somewhere around here. They were nowhere near this area. Logically speaking, no matter how you put it, even if you imagine an aircraft being right here and flying in this direction towards the Russian front lines, the question emerges, why is there no forensic evidence of the remains of either of these aircraft? No matter how you spin it, if one aircraft was maybe shot down here and traveling in this direction, just presumably a best case scenario for the Ukrainian media's claims that it was somewhere around here traveling north and this other one was somewhere around here. We are talking about 2 aircraft that should have been shot down and their remains should have still landed in Ukrainian-controlled territory. Vasilkiv is around 30 kilometers, or was around 30 kilometers at the time that this aircraft was alleged to be shot down. Bila Tserkva is more like 60, 70 kilometers. There is no way, especially in the case of Bila Tserkva, that an aircraft could have been shot down over Bila Tserkva and that its remains could have landed somewhere in Russian-controlled territory. So where is the forensic evidence? If you have 2 massive aircraft, and I would like to emphasize again that these aircraft are massive. They weigh over 100 tons if fully loaded. They can carry over 200 troops. And they are just, in terms of sheer size, they are massive. They are the size of a Boeing 747, even a bit larger maybe. Why is there no forensic evidence? Why are there no videos of the aircraft as they were being shot down? You would expect a massive, massive fireball in the sky that is about the same size as an Il-76 aircraft and traveling in roughly the same trajectory at roughly the same speed. The alleged shoot-downs happened at nighttime, by the way, so they would have been very clearly visible at night. And why, most importantly, is there no forensic evidence on the ground? Why has there not been a single photo, a single video, a single satellite image, which would have been clearly visible of something as massive as an Il-76? It would have been found by internet enthusiasts very, very quickly. Why do we see no such things? Why do we see no such evidence of any of this ever happening? No such forensic evidence? Well, the short answer is because it didn't happen. This is a completely made-up claim. And I would like to again emphasize the fact that this happened in the very first days of the conflict, on the third day since the war began. For me personally, this was the moment when I understood that all of these large, tall Ukrainian claims, tall tales of X number of Russian soldiers killed, Y number of Russian soldiers or Russian military aircraft shot down, Z number of Russian ships sunk, they're all complete bullshit and horseshit, and they're not to be trusted completely. The Ukrainian military is just completely pulling numbers out of their ass. They're not just smudging them, they are pulling numbers out of their ass to describe how they're beating the Russians so badly and how many military casualties the Russians are suffering. And we simply don't see the same thing coming from the Russian side. That doesn't mean that the Russians aren't smudging their numbers. They might be, but at the very least, it's nowhere near as blatant, and they're not coming up with blatant falsehoods like the Ukrainian side is. So that is what I wanted to talk about. This incident proves that all Ukrainian accounts, which are commonly cited, actually exclusively cited by Western media, are based only on the accounts of the Ukrainian side, which are basically complete horseshit. And why the reports that we're hearing about 4,000 Russian soldiers killed in the first few days of the war, now it's 20,000, 40,000, why all of that is complete, just ridiculous, made up bunch of lies. It shouldn't take any effort to provide a single photo of the shoot down and of the surrounding area of where the aircraft is located. This one photo, if it existed, would have completely demoralized the entire Russian military and all of Russia. It would have completely exposed what would have then been the lies of the Russian military with regards to their casualties, when the Russian military at this time was basically saying that they're not suffering high casualties. A single photo of this massive aircraft, which was carrying over 100 Russian soldiers being shot down, and when you have this warhead, at the very least, I'm presuming a medium-range Buk missile, something like that, you would have a warhead with an explosive charge of 50 kilograms exploding near an aircraft, 10 kilometers in the sky. Every single soldier on that aircraft would have been dead. There would have been no chance of survival. The fact that 2 such aircraft were lost would have been just a complete demoralizing loss for the Russians. And it would have given a lot of credibility to the Ukrainian side's claims of high Russian losses. But despite the fact that they have every reason to provide such forensic evidence, despite the fact that logically they should have every ability to do so, for some reason they didn't.